Kadosh Boker Tov, Masechet Ketubot Daf Yod Amud Aleph 10a1. The Gemara is talking about now what we were speaking about yesterday. If you remember yesterday, we were speaking about that a husband is believed in order to make his wife lose the ketubah. And he says, Petach Patuach Matzati. So we were speaking about what's he trying to do. Is he trying to make her lose the ketubah? Is he trying to come and to prohibit her? Then we started asking, why would it be prohibited? It's like, how do you call this? It's like a safek sfeka, it's a double doubt, so on and so forth. And that was yesterday's daf. Today's daf, we're going to speak about this concept of the ketubah. And the Gemara says, Itmar, it was stated, Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Shemuel. It says Rav Nachman in the name of Shemuel, Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, name of Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Chachamim tiknu lahem livnot Yisrael lebetula matayim, ulalmana mane. What does that mean? The Chachamim were the ones that instituted, right, that there should be for a betula, right, matayim, and for an almana, mane, which means like this, just that way you guys should understand. When a person gets married, he's obligated to his wife three things deoraita. She'er, kesut, ve'ona. She'er, kesut, ve'ona means she'er, right, is talking about the giving parnasa, right? Kesut is clothing, and ona is marital relations. Those are three things that mideoraita, every single man is obligated to give to his wife. Then all of a sudden we have 7, which are the rabbanan. Okay, that you're obligated, whether it's going to be to redeem her if she gets captured, whether it's to bury her if she passes away, to cure her if she becomes sick, right? That she eats from the parnasa, she eats from the property until she gets remarried, that her children inherit her male children inherit her ketubah, right? The 6th one is going to be that her female daughters also are going to be part of the family, that they get also parnasa as well. And the first one, which is a major one out of the 7, right, that we just mentioned was ikar ketubah. Ikar ketubah means the main part of the ketubah that she gets 200 and 100. And that's why a lot of people, they come and they say, people think that women's rights, or that, you know, that we're against women's rights. The exact opposite. In the Jewish nation already, the rabbis already instituted, we're talking about more than thousands of years ago, they already instituted something which is called the ketubah. And in the ketubah, he comes and he gives rights to the woman, that if right now, Shalom, he would have to divorce her for whatever reason it is, she is protected by law. What do you mean by law? By the law of the Torah. She gets a ketubah. Now remember, when it says here matayim zuz was the amount of money which was required for a year in order to live. So mama, she would have like 1 year of compensation. Yeah, that's what it was. That's what is for a betula. So here it says that the rabbis were the ones that instituted that if a person is going to come and he's going to divorce his wife, for a betula, she gets 200 zuz, and for an almanah, she gets 100 zuz, maneh. However, though they come and they believe him, that all of a sudden now, if he says petach patuach matzati, which means that he found that it was breached, it was opened. So now what happens? Ne'eman. He's going to be believed, and he's not obligated to give her the ketubah, right? Why? But since the rabbis were the ones that obligated the ketubah, they also give the power that they could take it away. And therefore, right, Mina Torah, the husband, right, it says if it was Mina Torah that he was obligated to, so then it doesn't help, right, unless he brings a din. But since it's not Mina Torah and it only comes from the rabbis, so therefore he's going to be believed to say Petach Patuach Matzati, and therefore it's going to be that said. Now, what about, is he still obligated to give her at least 100 or not? That we will speak about, right, later on, Daf Yud Aleph, Amud Bet. No, because the question is that here, that since he got married to her thinking that she was a betula, and at the end she was not a betula, so does that mean that he has to give her the minimum, which is 100, or does that mean that it was a mistake and therefore he has to give her wallo? He has to give her nothing, because at the end of the day, the entire thing was a mistake from the beginning. You understand? So mekach taut. Also, the same halacha would apply also for the ta'anat damim, which means not only for petach patuach matzati, also if a husband came and he said that there was no blood, he would also be believed. Again, we would continue. We're going to see to do with when exactly are you allowed to be toen ta'anat damim or not, because especially as the girls mature and they become older, some of them, they actually completely lose right, the blood and other things as well. But we'll continue seeing from there. So now the Gemara is going to ask the following question. If you're going to tell me that what? That the husband could get out of the ketubah by saying petach patuach matzati. So ma oilu chachamim takanatam. So what was the entire help? What did the rabbis gain by making the ketubah? Every husband that he wants, he could just come and say that the wife was not a betulah. He could just come and say the wife was petach patuach matzati. Look around when he gets rid of the ketubah. So answers the Gemara, no. Amar Rava comes and he says, Chazaka en adam toreach beseuda umafsida. There's a chazaka. What's the chazaka? A person is not going to be toreach beseuda, and then he's going to lose it, which means like this. There's a chazaka that goes against any husband, exactly, which means a person comes and he starts preparing a wedding. A wedding is not simple, right? A wedding is not easy. So therefore, if he already came and he prepared so much for the wedding, and he's being mashkia and he's investing in it, do you think that now he's going to come and he's just going to say, you know what, petach patuach matzati, and then get rid of the ketubah? Well, he just spent a fortune on the wedding. So he's not going to do that. So therefore, there's a chazakah. Once there's such a chazakah that a person is not going to come and invest in the seudah and then just get rid of it, for sure that it did help takna chachamim, because be'emet, right, usually he would always be chayav in ktuvat ishto when she is a betulah. So therefore, he's not going to come and try to get himself exempt. But it's fun. Why would he put it doesn't make sense. What's he trying to do? He's trying to save some money. So what's he doing? He's coming in and saying that now, but then he's spending more on the wedding. Well, it doesn't make sense. You understand? By the way, you should know that even until today, the majority of weddings cost 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times the amount of the ketubah. You understand? Some ketubot are $18,000. You think a wedding costs you $18,000? Some, even if it's going to be 26, even if it's going to be 52. You understand? The majority of the weddings are even more than that. So it doesn't make sense in Tzvara that a person will come and they'll make such a big loss. So now the Gemara says, since we just said that the ketubah is the Rabbi, Hoil uknas chachamim lo tigbe ela min haziborit. Since the entire concept of the ketubah is a knas chachamim, which means it comes midrabanan and it's only a knas. Now we have to understand, what does it mean it's a knas? Doesn't make sense. What do you mean you're saying it's a knas? But once you're going to say it's a knas, so what happens? You could only collect from the ziborit. What does it mean from the ziborit? From the worst, right? From the bad, right? And you're not going to come and you're not going to collect it from the good, okay? So says the Gemara, it's a knas. Knasa? My knasa, what's a knas? Ela ema, but rather you have to say, Hoil takanat chachamim. Since it's a takanat chachamim, lo tigbel mina ziborit. You're only going to collect from the worst, which means like this. There are many different types of fields. Yeah, you have something which is called, right, which is from the most affluent, right, from the best, la creme de la creme as we call it. Then you have, right, which is called idit. Then you have something which is called benonit. Benonit is middle class. And then you have ziborit. Ziborit is the worst class. Idit is the best class, the first class. Okay? Idit, Benonit, and Ziburit. Now, here, what are we trying to say? We're trying to say that since right now this is a knas, which means, what do you mean it's a knas? It's not really a knas, but it's a taknat chachamim. So therefore, you don't collect it from the best. You don't even collect it from the mediocre. You collect it from, right, from the least. What does it mean from the least? Right? It means from the least of the least. Okay? You guys are listening? One more time. What does it mean, the least from the least? The least from the least means is that, for example, let's say I have 3 different types of properties. I've got one in Surfside. Yeah, I've got one in North Miami Beach. Yeah, and then I've got one in Hialeah. Yeah, so you have the Idit, yeah, which is in Surfside. You have the Benonit in North Miami Beach, and then you have the Ziborit in Hialeah. Yeah, so what happens? So he says when she's going to come and she's going to collect, she cannot tell him, you know what? I want the house in Surfside, right? Let's say it's even the same value of the money, right? In her dreams, but okay, but let's see, right? Let's say she's the same value of money. She's going to say, I want the house in Surfside. He says, no, the house in Surfside is my Edit. I don't have to give you Edit. So she's going to say, okay, fine, so give me at least in North Miami Beach. Says, no, North Miami Beach, it's Benonit. So where does she collect? Give her the house in Hialeah. Right? That's Ziborit. Yeah, that's what you're going to get. Says the Gemara. Okay, now he says over like this. Rabban Shimon Gamliel Omer, Rabban Shimon Gamliel says, Rashbag says, Ketubat Isha Mina Torah. Ketubat Isha comes from the Torah. Now, obviously, we have to bring a pasuk for that. Because how could you come and tell me that the Ketubah comes from the Torah? So says the Gemara, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Hachi. Does Rabbi Shimon Gamliel she say such a thing? Ketubat Isha Mina Torah. But Tanya, we learned in the Braita. The Torah says when a person is going to seduce a na'ara betula, that if the father does not want to give him to give the daughter to this man, kesef ishkol kemuara betulot. What does that mean? Kesef bishkalim, he has to pay to the father of the girl that he seduced. Kemuara betulot. What does that mean? Like a tashlum for the betulot, which means that the betulim has a value. Meaning a girl that she's a virgin has a value. And that value, you have to pay for it. So he comes and he says, she is zeh, kemora betulot. Umora betulot kazeh. Which means that which he's paying is like mora betulot. Right? What is the mora betulot? That he's paying as a knas to the father of the girl that he seduced. Umora betulot is going to be what he's paying over, which is the shkalim, which means chamishim kesef, right? Chamishim shkale kesef, that's what it is. Because also by the onus, it says that he has to pay chamishim kesef, but the Torah did not speak about which type of a matpea. It's just chamishim kesef. But now here we're saying it's going to be chamishim shekalim, okay? So he says mikad. From here you see, samchu chachamim. The chachamim come and they are somech. They are relying upon that Ketubat Isha is mina Torah, right? Which means that he's obligated from the Torah to come and say that he's paying it. Rashbag Omer, Rabban Shimon says, Ketubat Isha ena midivre Torah, ela midivre sofrim. So how could you come and you tell me that Rashbag is saying, Rabbi Shimon is saying, Ketubat Isha is mina Torah? We brought down a pasuk to do with the seduction of a betula, and therefore there they said, Chachamim say that it's going to be mina Torah. And here all of a sudden Rashbag is saying mefurash the words that Ketubat Isha is not mina Torah, it is only midivrei sofrim, it's midrabanan. So what are you talking about then? So it says you're right. Epuch. You have to switch it around. Rashbag is the one that says that Ketubat Isha is mina Torah, and the Tanakama holds that it's going to be midrabanan. So it comes out that Rashbag is exactly what we just said before. Meaning this second braita that it says, right, that it was basically Chachamim say that it's going to be Doraita, and Rashbag says it's the Rabbanan, switch it. Chachamim say it's the Rabbanan, Rashbag says it's Doraita. So the question that we're going to ask is, you have two braitas. The first braita said that Rashbag says that it's Doraita. Second braita we brought down from the Pasuk, Rashbag says it's Rabbanan, Chachamim says Doraita. We said switch it. Who told you to switch the second one? Maybe switch the first one. Why are you going to switch the second braita? Switch the first braita. That really Rashbag is the one that always holds that it's going to be the Rabbanan. So answers the Gemara, because we did hear in another place also that he holds that Ketubat Isha is midoraita. Rashbag Omer says, Noten la mimeot kapot kaya. What does that mean? If a person gets married to a woman in kapot kaya, and then he divorced her in Eretz Yisrael, yeah? Which one, what money does he give her? Yeah, what value, what currency? So he has to give her the currency of the first one, which was worth more than the currency of Eretz Yisrael. Why? Here it says that Kaput Kaya is a Medina Tika it's a very old country in the place of where Turkey is today. And it says that it was very heavy, and with their coins were much more valuable than the coins of Israel. So therefore, what happens? You have here a case where a person gets married, right? Let's say nowadays, even now the euro became equal to the dollar. But let's say, for example, in which one? Now it's lower. It went under, right? The euro, even though the euro was always on top. Yeah, but now let's say the British pound. The British pound is still on top, correct? The British pound is still on top, no? The British pound. Says the Gemara. So we're coming out that according to Rashbag, if you hold that Ketubat Isha is Doraita, right? Why? Because Rashbag says he has to give her Ma'al Kapot Kya, which means the fact that he got divorced, right, in Israel doesn't mean that now he has to give the less of the currency, the opposite. He still has to give from the money of Kapot Kya, which is a higher value, because if you hold Ketubat Doraita, you always have to pay from the best. Or if you want, you could answer another answer. Kula Rashbag. The entire Braita is Shitat Rashbag. And we're lacking part of it, and this is the way that you're supposed to teach it. Mikan tzamchu chachamim lektubat isha min Torah. From here, remember, we're trying to understand the second Braita. And the second Braita says that from here, the rabbis are coming and saying, Ketubat isha min Torah. But Ketubat almana ena midivre Torah, ela midivre sofrim. Even if you're going to hold that the Ketubat isha, which means Ketubat betula, is doraita. However, the Ketubat almana is not doraita, right? But Rabbi Gamliel Omer, Ketubat almana ela midivre Torah. Rabbi Shbag says that Ketubat almana is not midivre Torah, but rather it's midivre sofrim. So now, according to this, it actually could make sense because at the end of the day, Rashbag is not actually arguing. So it comes out that the almana, she never was instituted a Ketubat Doraita, according to everybody. Even if you're going to come and you're going to tell me that Ketubat Betula is Doraita because Kemuara Betulot from the Torah, but for sure Almana, no. Because a person doesn't pay the Almana anything. There's nothing there. Fine. Says the Gemara, Ha'udata lekameda Rav Nachman, Elmaleh petach patuach matzati. Right? So what happened is somebody came in front of Rav Nachman, and he comes and he tells him, petach patuach matzati, I found that it was an open, which means she wasn't a virgin. So, Amarlehu, Rav Nachman, so Rav Nachman comes and he tells the Bedin, Asvu kufre, go and give him a coat. Go and give him a coat. Why? Because how does he know if it's petach patuach or not? How does he know? How does this boy know if it's petach patuach? Obviously what? It means, right, that he had relations. So, mevarachata chavitale. He says what? The Zonot Ha'ir are always in front of him, so that's how he knows? Meaning what? That means he already fooled around, and that's why he knows what's petach patuach and not petach patuach. How does he know? How does he know? Second. There's the Gemara. V'harav Nachman u'daman me'eman. This is 1 second, but didn't we just say on the previous page, right? Didn't we just say, right, at the beginning of the Amud, didn't we just say right now that a person is believed to say petach patuach matzati, and we don't say that right now, right? He gets lashes. So says the Gemara, meheman u'mesavinin lekufre. No, you're right. We do believe him. But what do? We believe him, and then we come and we give him lashes. We do believe him, but then we come and we give him lashes. Okay, fine. Rav Achai mishane. Rav Achai comes and he answers what Mordechai wanted to say. Kam bebachur, kam benasui. He says, no, 1 second. We are always going to believe him. To do with the belief, we believe. Only question is, do we give them lashes or not? So comes and he says, what are you going to do exactly? So he comes and he says like this. He says, right, as follows. He comes and he says, if he was already previously married, obviously he knows if it was petach patuach matzati or not. If he wasn't, if he's a bachur, then you give them lashes. So believing, we always believe. But the lashes depend on circumstances. Yeah, that's the second answer. That's the answer of Rav Achai. Okay, fine. So that was just the Gemara. Now again, we're talking about petach patuach matzati. Okay. How ta'ata lekame Rav Gamliel. Right, there was somebody that came in front of Rav Gamliel. Elmaleh, and he tells him petach patuach matzati. Elmaleh comes to Rav Gamliel. He says shema itita. Maybe you did hataya. You remember we spoke about this. He went on the side. Imagine you're going in the darkness and you don't see where the entrance is. So what did you do? Hita, you went on the alachson, you went on the slanted. So mitzao patuach, so you went and you found it open. Avalo hita, but if not, you're not going to find it open. Meaning if you're always going head on, it could be that you don't find it open. But if you're coming from the side, you're going to get to the open entrance. So therefore he comes and he says, right, lo hita mitzao naud. Right? So if you didn't do ataya, you would have found that it was actually closed. Right? Ikadami, there are those that say, Haki Elmaleh, this is what the Gamliel told the Chatan. Shema b'mezid itita. Maybe you did it b'mezid, which means b'mezid you did hataya. Right? V'akarta ledasha ve'avra. Right? And what you did is that you went and you uprooted the delet and the briach. Right? Which means you come and you uprooted the door and the lock. Which means, right, he did it. He's actually able to get out the betulim, right, without tearing it. Right? That means basically you will be able to do that. You'll be able to come in from the side and take out the betulim without actually tearing it. If you come straight on, you have to break it. But if you're coming from the side, right, you don't need to. It's like a bottle cap. A bottle cap, sometimes you could come from the side, take a knife, and you come like this, and you could actually take off the entire cap, right, without actually breaking it. right? But if you're going to come and take it straight, you have to break it. That's the only way to get it off. So he says, right, this is the only way of doing it. So he says, if he did it purposely, so then you're going to find it closed. Fine. So until here, we're talking about the entire concept of petach patuach. Now we're going to go about tanat tamim, right? Because again, there were two different halachot. One of them was, he says, matzati petach patuach, which means that the entrance was open. And the other one is, there was no blood. So now let's see what he says. Somebody came in front of Gamliel bar Rabbi. Amarle, and he comes and the chatan tells him, Gamliel bar Rabbi, Rabbi, ba'alti velo matzati dam. I had relations and I didn't find any blood. Yeah, amralo. Now the kala tells him, Gamliel, Rabbi, betula iti. I was a betula. Amar lahem, so he tells him, haviu li et oto sudar. Bring me the mapa. Right? This is what we were talking about with the shushmini. Right? What does that mean? Right? They have a mapa underneath this white cloth, and it was purposely there for what? In order to make sure that if she was a betula, you would see the blood. So therefore, bring it. So they brought it, right? They soaked it in water, they washed, and then they found that there was a few drops of blood, but it was covered in the shikmat zera. What does that mean? It means that the zera, right, the semen could actually come and cover over the blood. So what did he do? He went, right? He went and they washed the clothing, and by washing the clothing, now what happens is they were able to see that there was a few drops of blood. So Amarlo, he says, Lech v'zeche b'mekechacha. Go, be zoche in your mekach. Why? Because she was a betula. And she comes and she says, right, that what? That she was still a betula. So they went, they washed it, and then they were able to find a few people down. Says the Gemara, Amaleh huna more bered Rava, Iparzakia Ravashi says, Huna, the son of Rav Parzakia to Ravashi, Ananami Navidach. Right? I also, right, was going to do that with a Chatan Mutane Damim, that we were going to check by washing the mapa if there was going to be blood there or not. So Amalei comes and he tells him, right, Yoda Mubet, Gihutz Shelanu Kekibus Shelahem, which means only Gihutz in Bavel, right, which is after the Kibus, right, which we're going to come, we're going to be Mishafshef the Beged with Eben Zechuchit and everything else, is like the Kibus Shelahem in Eretz Yisrael. But our Kibus is Garua, and therefore it's not going to help in order to find it. The Amarta Neave Gihutz, now if you're going to tell me, do Gihutz, Me'abra le Chumarta, the Shifshuf is going to take away the dam. And it's not only the Lorak Etalichluf, right? It's going to take away everything. So therefore, we have no way of getting the Tipet Dam Mechusim, which means only in a certain fashion, meaning like this. You have to be very, very careful because Mitzad Echad, right? If you're going to come and you're going to take it off too much, you took off the blood as well. So you took off the zera, you took off the blood, now there's nothing left. So therefore, you have to do it in a certain fashion that you're actually cleaning it, but you still could see the blood and not 100%. So that's what he's saying. Our gihutz in Babel is considered their kibus. Now, if you're going to tell me like that, so then do gihutz. Says no, because if you do gihutz, you're taking away the chomer. Okay, and therefore you have no way of actually telling. So somebody came in front of Gamliel bar Rabbi, and he told him, Rabbi, I went, he had a bevila. He didn't find dam betulin. Amrale, she told him, Rabbi, I'm still a betula. Here, did you understand what just happened? She comes and she says, she's still a betula. Amar lahen, he went and he said, Haviu lishte shefachot. Bring two shefachot. Achat betula ve'achat be'ula. One a betula and one a be'ula. Listen to this, genius. Haviu lo ve'oshivan al pi chavit shel yain. They put them on top of a chavit of wine, right? The be'ula recha nodef. The be'ula, when she's sitting on top of the barrel of wine, from her mouth comes out the smell of the wine. The betula en recha nodef, but the betula, it does not come out. Avzu shiva ve'lo haya recha nodef. Amar lo lech v'zeche b'mekecha. Go be zoche in your mekach. Why? Because she's still a betula, and that's why, right? He was able. So this was like the check, right, to make sure, right? We learned this in another Gemara as well, right? Which means that you see from here that really Be'emet she was still. No, they sat her down on top of a barrel of wine, and then they had another woman, an open barrel of wine, and then what happens is that another woman comes and smells. If he could smell the wine coming through her mouth, so therefore she's a be'ula. But if the smell does not come through her mouth, so therefore she's still a betula.
She sits on the barrel of the wine with clothing on?
Ikara. So he says, why don't we check like that lechatchila? Right? If right now we could do it, so why did he first have to check it with the shefachot? Why did he have to get shefachot? Just check the girl right away. So says the Gemara, right? Gemara hava shmiel. Rabbi Gamliel, he had this as a masoret, but maaseh lo avachazi, but he never saw it before. V'savar, so he says, dilma lokim le begava de milta shapi. Maybe be'emet it's not enough to be baki in it. V'lav orach ara lezelzule bebenot Yisrael. And it's not derech eretz to be mezalzel bebenot Yisrael. You understood this musar, an incredible musar. What happened was really be'emet, he received this as a masoret, but he never actually saw it. Meaning he never actually saw how it was done. So he received this masoret. He comes and he says, you know what? I'm going to try it. But if I'm going to try this, and maybe it didn't work, it's not going to work, and therefore I'm being mezalzel, and this is what he said. So what did he do? He says, we're going to make an experiment. The experiment was 2 shefachot. You took a shifcha that you already know she was a betula. You took a shifcha, she was a beula. You put them both. You test it. If it works, now you do it on the bat Yisrael. But you're not going to start lechatchila on the bat Yisrael. Somebody came in front of Rabbi Zaken, Amalo, and he told him, Rabbi, baalti v'lo matzati dam. He had beila, he didn't find blood. Amralo, she told him, Rabbi, mimishpacha durketi ani. I'm from the family of Durketi. She'en lahen lo dam nida v'lo dam metulim. They never have dam nida, dam metulim. He asked the family members, and they all said the same thing. Elmaleh lo, he told them, Lech v'zechem b'mekacha, ashrecha shezachita lemishpacha Durketi. Fortunate are you from mishpacha Durketi. What does it mean, my Durketi? So he says, Dor katua. Why is it Dor katua? Because basically what happens is that these, it's like katua, it's like cut off from the rest of the girls because they don't have dam nida and dam betulim. So Amar Rabbi Chanina says, Rabbi Chanina, Tanchumim shel hevel michamor Rabbi Gamliel leoto ish. Do you know Rabbi Gamliel? He was just trying to appease him, to console him. But why was it Tanchumim shel hevel? Titani Rabbi Chia, keshem she'aseor yafeh la'isa, ken damim yafim la'isha. Just like the seor is good for the isa, you need yeast in order to make the dough is going to rise in order to make bread. So too you need blood in a woman. Why? Because if there's no blood, how does she become pregnant? She only becomes pregnant, right? Only because of the dam nida. If there's no dam nida, there's no pregnancy, there's no ovulation, there's no nothing. So not one second. So then how does it help? So therefore he comes and he says, V'tana mishum Rabbi Meir, kol isha shedamea merubim, banea merubim. If she has more blood, she has more children. So therefore the opposite. So what is he telling him? He's telling him, kol hakavod, ashrecha shezachita ledor mishpacha durketi. Because that means the guy won't have children. Why is he not going to have children? Right? Because of what we just said. Because there's not going to have any children. Itmar, it was stated. Yirbiya bar Abba Amar, Yirbiya bar Rama says, Zechem mekachacha, Elmaleh. He comes and he says, right? So he comes and he says, Zechem mekachacha, Elmaleh. What he said, Zechem mekachacha. Rabbi Yossi bar Ravi Naman, Yitchayev mekachacha. Which means you become chayav, which means even though it's a mekach karua, you bought it. That's it. This is your problem. So Bishman Mandamar, I understand nitchayev b'mekacha means that you took it and that's it. Hainu kedabachinina, that's like a b'chanina. The Chanina says that a woman that doesn't have a lot of blood, she doesn't get pregnant easily. But according to the Manda, Amar zecheh b'mekacha. My zechut, what's the zechut? Telot lile safek nida. No, the zechut is that she'll never become safek nida. But since she's not a nida, so she doesn't have safek nida. Haudat lekamed the Rabbi, there was somebody that came from Rabbi Elmaleh. He says, Rabbi, ba'altu l'tzati dam betulim. Amralo, Rabbi, adayin betula iti. Right? I was still a betula. Ushne batzoret ava. And it was the years of famine. Ra'a shepneim shchorim. So what happened was he saw that their faces were still black because of hunger. So tziva lehem echnisam lemechatz. He put them into the bathhouse in order now that it's much vechilum, we give them to eat, to drink. Then he went and he actually did find blood. Amarlo, he says, Lech v'zecheh b'mekachacha. Kari Rabbi alehem. So Rabbi went and he called on them. Tzafad onam al atzmam yavesh haya ka'etz. What does that mean? That it's nidbak. That means it becomes that because of the yovesh. That's why there was no blood. Really, Bemet, she was still a betula.
Like just told you, the skinny girl, very skinny, anorexic, don't have amenorrhea.
Exactly,
like
but they still have it.
The girls who do marathon, they don't have periods.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The Mishnah comes and it says like this. Betula ketubata matayim valmana maneh. The betula, the ketubah is ketubah is matayim, and almana the ketubah is a maneh, which is 100 zuz. Betula almana grusha v'chalutza min harusin. What about if you have a betula, but she's an almana, right? Or a grusha v'chalutza from the harusin, which means that since she's still being married, she's still a betula, but she's already an almana, or she's a grusha v'chalutza. So ketubatan matayim, they still have a ketubah matayim. Why? Because there's still cheskat betula. And therefore they have tana betulim, which means that if he doesn't find her to be a betula, she loses the ketubah because it's mekach taut. Yeah, fine. Says the Gemara, my almana. What does it mean? The name almana. So Amar Rav Chana Bagta says Rav Chana Bagmi from Baghdad. He says almana is al shem mana. Almana al shem mana. What does that mean? That she only gets one mana. So that's why it's called an almana. Okay, that's why. So now it says, fine, but almana min harusin, what about almana min harusin? Why? Because we just said in the Mishnah, almana min harusin still gets 200 because she's still a betula. So says the Gemara, no, I did the almana. Once you call the almana from the nisuin almana al shemana, so now you also call the almana min harusin also almana, even though she still gets 200. So says the Gemara, so what about almana dichtiva beoraita mekamen? What about almana in the Torah? In the Torah, it's already written almana. Now you can't tell me almana was al shem mana because this entire concept of shem mana was the rabbanan, right? Because according to everybody, ketubat almana was the rabbanan. So if ketubat almana was the rabbanan, so now what? In the Torah it's written almana and it's already al shem atid mitzad the rabbanan that they say that it's al shem mana. That there's something here. So answer is going to yes. Since in the future the rabbis were going to come and make a takana al shem mana for her. So therefore, in the Torah, they already called her almana. So says the Gemara, Umi katav kralati. Does the Torah speak about something which is going to happen in the future? Meaning, why is she called an almana? Because of what's happening with you. What's going on? And so, yes. Why? It says in the pasuk. The pasuk says in Bereshit, "V'shem anahara shel ishi hidekel hu haolech kidmat Ashur." Right? What does that mean? It says the third river is hidekel. It's going by kidmat Ashur. The Tana of Yosef Ashur. What does it mean, selika? It says over here, okay, here the ashur is an ashur which is going to be much later on, basically. So therefore, you come and you see from here that when it's talking about ashur, which usually I think we translate it as Assyria, right? But here it says umiyavai. It wasn't then. It wasn't by sheshet mebreshit. Eladatida. It's going to be in the future. Hachanami datida. So to here almana is going to be on the future. Says matar. What is matar also, right? Matar is mashke umarve umzabel umeaden umamshich, right? What does that mean? You have all the ma'alot totovot, right, in matar, right? This is what he's actually saying. That means he's making a dirasha in the letters of matar. He's saying in matar you have mashke, marve, mezabel, me'aden, umamshich. All these things are from the word of matar. Right, so he comes and he says over here, this is actually fitting for the Kiyam Masechta. Yeah? So he says, right, it's giving to drain, it's satiating, it's giving fertilizer, it's making it softer, and mamshich makes it grow the fruits. So Amar Rabbi Ishmael, how do we know this from the pasuk? He says in the Tehillim, what does that mean? You see that it's mashke u'merave u'mezavel u'meaden, all these things. This is what the matar is actually doing. So you see from here that this is actually a pasuk, which is a tefillah to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, right? That we're asking a Kadosh Baruch Hu to do this, right? And therefore, this is exactly right, like what we mentioned before. Okay, Amar Rabbi Elazar says Rabbi Elazar, what does mizbeach? So what does mizbeach? He says meziach, mezin, right? Mechabev, umchaper. So all these things, if you put them together, it becomes right the mizbeach. Right? So what does that mean? One more time. Meziach. Meziach is to remove, right? Because it's removing our sins. Mezin, it's in the zechut of the korbanot, it's giving us parnasa. We're getting bracha. Mechabev, it's making us precious in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And mechaper ala avonot. So therefore, this word of mizbeach is all these things put together. So he comes and he says, Hainu mechaper, hainu meziach. But 1 second, I thought we just translated together. The meziach means to remove the sins. And mechaper means to atone for the sins. Salam shos. It's the exact same thing. So says Gemara, no. Meziach is a gzirot. Mechaper is an avonot. Meziach means it's removing, not removing the sins. Removing the gzirot ra'ot on Medisa, our bad decrees against us. But mechaper is it's actually going to be an atonement for the avonot. Do you know tmarim? Again, remember, we're all talking about all the different sayings of Rochana Bagdata. That's why we're bringing down each one, even though there's no connection. What's the connection between matar and mizbeach? So very nice. It's all, play on words, right? It's not play on words, but it's like, teaching you things from the word, but there's no connection, right? And the same thing with the next one as well. A tmarim, or even beforehand, to do with the how do you call it, that we just mentioned before. But now he comes and he says like this. He says, right, tamre, tmarim, what are they? First of all, meshachnan, right? They are mechamem et aguf, which means it warms you up. So if you eat dates, it warms you up. Number 2, misbi'an. What's misbi'an? Right? It satiates. That's why a person before a fast, they'll eat dates. Number 3, mishalshelan. Shalshelan means it makes that your stomach is running, right? So it'll make the opposite of constipation. Yeah? And it also is going to strengthen, right, a human being. That's mashran. Velo mefankan, but it's not going to be mefankoto, but it's not going to be mefanekoto to get motarot, which means it's not going to make a person finicky or make him very, that he only has, these type of things. Amar Rav, and Rav says, achal tmarim al yoreh. If you come and you eat dates, do not paskin shelot. Why? Because it's like making you like shikor. It's like making you like a drunk. Remember, once you become a drunk, you can't paskin on a shela. Why? Because now you're under influence. Once you're under influence, that's it. Yeah? So meitvei, so we're going to ask the following question. Tmarim, shachrit ve'arvit, yafot. Tmarim, if you're going to eat tmarim after you eat pat shachrit, or after you eat aruchat arvit, so then it's going to be good for a person. But mincha, right, it's going to be bad. So if it's tzahorayim, en kamotam, but if it's going to be in the afternoon, right, they say there's nothing better than that, which means that it's even better. Why? Because during the day, you could still go out to the field, right, and you could go to the washroom, right, when you need to, right, but on nighttime, what are you going to do? You're going to go out to the washroom. Remember, the washroom was not in your house. You had to go out of the fields. Who's going to go out of the fields in the middle of the night? And it's also the dates are going to annul 3 different things. Machshava ra'ah. Machshava ra'ah here means da'aga, being worried. Why? Because it's misameach et halev, right? Number 2, right? Choli mi'ayin. It's going to take away any type of a sickness of the stomach, the tachtoniot, and hemorrhoids, right? So you see from here that tmarim are actually very, very good. So how could he come and tell you that al yoreh? So says the Gemara, whoever told you this? Nobody said that it's not good. We just said don't paskin. Well, nobody said it's not good. It's very, very good. And they actually help a lot, but that time it takes away his mind. Just like wine. The Amar more says, if you drink a revit of wine, you're not allowed to paskin. Why? Because now your mind is not there. And that's why I told you the Rav of Gate said that he's the rabbi of the city, right? So Rabbi Eid, right? He would never drink a revit of wine. Even for Kiddush, it was always grape juice. He never drank wine. He said, why? As being the rabbi of the city, he always has to be ready for a psak. He doesn't know when somebody's going to knock on the door. Imagine right now, Friday night, somebody knocks on the door. I'm sorry, I can't pass it. Why? Because I already drank a revit of wine. He's in trouble. Never on wine, only on grape juice. Only on grape juice, even for the night of Pesach. He never ever added a revit of wine. Why? Because you have to be ready to give up psak. And in order to be ready for give up psak, you can't drink a revit of wine. You can answer another answer. La kashya. It's not a question. Right? Why? That which we said that a person cannot paskin if he already ate dates. Nikamen namaz, if before he ate bread. Levatar nama, but this is after he bread, which means after he eats bread, there's no problem of eating dates, and then he could still paskin. But if he ate the dates before eating bread, so then no. Abaye says, Amrali, my mother told me, Tamre mikame nahama kinarga ledikula. The dates which are eaten before bread are not going to be good, right? Just like a garzen, just like an axe to a tree, right? To a palm tree. But after the bread, ki avra ledasha. So then it's going to strengthen it, just like the briach is mechazek et delet. That means just like the door, the lock, strengthens the door, so too, after bread, the dates are going to strengthen a human being. What is dasha? So the Gemara says dasha is the actual door, correct? But why is the door called dasha in Aramaic? He says, Amarava derech sham. It's a Masechet Ketubot, it's an acronym. Derech sham, dasha. What does that mean? The way that you go in and out. That's derech sham. Darga. Why is a sulam, stairs, called darga? Right? Amar Rava says derech gag. That's how you go to the roof. How do you go to the roof? Darga. Right? Why? Derech gag. Okay? Puriya, the bed. Why is the bed, right, called puriya? He says, Amar Papa sheparim ravina leh, because they do priya v'rivya on the bed. So since they do priya v'rivya on the bed, it's called puraya, right? And that's what we say also, right? That there are three things that you could lie about, right? And those three things, one of them is puraya. So there's a machloket there. What's the pshat puraya? Is it to do with tashmish or is it to do with purim? About saying that you drank on purim even though you didn't actually really drink. So Amar Nachman bar Yitzchak says Nachman bar Yitzchak. Yeah, Yudalef Amud Aleph. Af anu nomar. What is Ailonit? The Ailonit that the Chachamim come and they say that a woman cannot have children is Duchranit de la Yalda. Is Milashon Ail. An Ail is like an Ail Zachar that cannot have children. So that's why also we were going to say that the word Ailonit, right? That's what we're saying here, is different from the Teva of Shanashim, and therefore, right, what's it called? She's called Duchranit de la Yalda, that she cannot have any children. We continue with Zat Hashem Sunday morning on the Mishnah Yudalef Amud Aleph.